I remember when I was a little kid, I had a dream where there was this town. There was a river that went all around the town, and I've never been here in my life. So in this dream, there's like authorities that are rounding up people like cattle, and they're taking them and they put them in this building. And then once they go into that building, you hear screaming and shouting, and it was scary. Yeah. So people were trying to hide from these authorities, and I was one of them hiding. I didn't know anybody in this dream. But slowly, there a group of us formed together. But as we were running through this town, hiding, see, we were trying to get to the river, to cross the river and escape this town, but we couldn't get there because they had all kinds of like laser beams, like detectors, those, what do they call, motion sensor detectors or something like that, where if you cross in front of that light, then some kind of alarm goes off. One of the people in our group, he touched one of those, and here it zapped him, and he was dead instantly. So we knew we couldn't go through that, and we didn't know how to get over it or under it or anything, because it was very tricky. It was almost like there was a dome, an invisible dome that covered this town. So we were basically trapped in this town. Then all of a sudden we saw people would just be walking, and they just fall to the ground and they're dead. And then we realized, oh Jesus, they're using something. I bet you anything it's some kind of a germ. That's some kind of a chemical, or maybe it's even an insect that's carrying it, that they're sending out, because all of a sudden we started to see these authorities. They were walking around like spacemen. They had on suits that astronauts wear. So we were like, oh, geez, now we're really in a bind. How are we going to get out of here? Because now the air, we can't even breathe the air. So there were some of us in our group that were starting to get sick, and then they would die. Now, when I had this dream, I was 8 years old. Okay, I was only 8 years old. I never knew of anything about chemical warfare. I have never read any science fiction books. I've never seen any movies like this before. So this is why this dream really, really scared me, because I never, ever read about anything like that. Never. I was just 8 years old, third grade in school. I never knew about chemical warfare. I didn't even know what this was. All I knew at 8 years old is that there was something in the air and you had to be careful, and that we had to get out of there somehow. And at one point, there were just three of us left. So we saw that there were some vehicles that were going in and out. They were military-looking vehicles, and they were going in and out of this town. So we thought, hey, let's get under it. Let's get under the vehicle and try to get out that way, because we saw that they didn't check under the vehicle. So we did that. We got under this vehicle, and as soon as this vehicle took off, we made it. And we made it through this bridge, and we got out of that community. And then we can't let go because this thing is driving really fast. So we had to wait until it stopped someplace, and then when there was nobody around, then we got off. Then we crawled out from under this big truck, and we just ran. Yeah, we just ran and ran and ran and ran, and that's how I woke up. And I was incredibly scared. Yeah, I woke up, and I was just freaking out, and I'm only 8 years old, and it always stayed with me. Then remember, a movie came out with Dustin Hoffman. Do you remember that? Some of you may remember that movie with Dustin Hoffman. It's almost like my dream, what I just told you. It was called Outbreak, 1995. This is one where a monkey brings a virus to this community, so they have to close it off, and they find out that the military intends to bomb the community because they can't take a chance of this virus spreading throughout the United States. So they plan to bomb this city with a nuclear weapon. And so they're racing against time. Outbreak. The movie is called Outbreak. That was 1995, and I had my dream years before this movie. So when I saw the movie, it reminded me of that dream. And I thought that was really interesting because at 8 years old, I never heard about chemical warfare. I never heard about viruses that could wipe out entire populations. At 8 years old, I never heard anything like that. So the dream, I'm thinking to myself, how is it that I get that dream? Yeah, because I'm only 8 years old. So I was thinking to myself, what was this showing me? Was my superconscious trying to show me something, or what? So I started paying attention to dreams more and more and more in my life because of these things. Because I would see things. I never knew anything about this topic. Whatever topic it was. It seemed like I would dream about it, and then later on in my life, and I was like, hey, I learned about it maybe 20 years later. And I was like, hey, wait a minute, I dreamt about that when I was a kid. See, that's why I really tried to write it down. Because maybe you don't understand it now, but maybe several years later, you will. So this means that something inside of you, somehow you were getting information, you were receiving knowledge, and you received it before you even consciously knew about it. I think that's pretty cool. So I had lots of dreams like that throughout my life. And some of them I don't know what they mean, but that's okay. I think this is a really cool thing, to be able to receive information. At the time that you receive it, you don't even know what it is. But it leaves an impression in your mind. Lots of times this happens. Sometimes people will get a dream and they think, oh, this is just crazy, and she just don't even make sense, and don't write it off. Yes, maybe it is a crazy dream. Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe you just don't understand it yet. So you just take the time, just let it gel. There's no rush. When it comes to that part of your mind where dreams are concerned, time doesn't mean anything. What's important is that the information comes to you. It doesn't matter when. You don't have to worry about that. And it's okay if you don't understand it right away. But it's a good idea to write the whole thing down. So later you can come back to it and maybe you'll understand it. Because like I said, it might mean something. It really might mean something in the future. It's really interesting how things like that can happen. It's a way to receive knowledge. It's a way to receive warning. It's a way to receive information that something is going to happen. That could even be a good thing, too. This is what we're capable of. Everybody is capable of this, of receiving information. And what's really happening? What do you think is really, really happening? Tapping into the source. That's what's happening. The source is energy that's all around us, and it's created by all our thought patterns. All the people who are living on this earth create this force, and this has the thought patterns of everybody. So you can tap into that. And then this way you can receive information from really interesting places, and sometimes that information originates somewhere else. It doesn't originate on this planet. Now we're getting Twilight Zone here, yeah? But this is what Lakota Star Knowledge is about. This is why we know about this passageway that's in a certain constellation. In the center, there is a hole, and we know where it goes. We've known this for millions of years, up until the 1800s. Then we became Christian, and the churches said this information was evil, that this is from the devil. So now, today, 21st century, most Lakota people don't know this information. But some of us do. Some of us still do. And this is how we know. These stories talk about where these places go to. And these stories are saying there is no heaven. There is no hell. There are no angels. There are no demons. There is no good. There is no evil. There is no God. There is no Satan. It's something completely different that has no beginning and it has no end. But this is not God. It's something completely different. So our stories talk about where these passages are and where they lead to. How do you think we know that? Because we tapped into the source. And some of that information came from a different place. It did not come from this earth. That's why we have a word for 1 million in Lakota. It's just giving you an idea of what this is about. But the main concept is that the only way to learn this information is to go within yourself. You have to do that first. Otherwise, you're not going to really understand it. If you don't go within yourself, you're going to start talking about spaceships and UFOs, and it's not about that at all. It's something really different, okay? It's not about that at all. That's real star knowledge. And you don't need to speak Lakota for this. That's the other thing. Because this has nothing to do with the ceremonies, and it doesn't have anything to do with the language. It's spirituality. Spirituality has no language. So this is how, when you're able to receive information and then you don't understand it, that's okay. Just don't forget it. That's why I said write it down. Because later you might understand it. But obviously you have the information for a reason. Because the information would not come to you if there was no reason. So when I look at this dream that I had when I was 8 years old, and I see that all this time this dream was about chemical warfare and viruses, I didn't even know what those were at 8 years old. I didn't even know about that till I was 16. But I got the information through a dream. So I paid attention to what was going on. So this is how it happens, by tapping into that source. And like I said, the only way you can do it, it's not through a ceremony, it's not through humblecha, it's not through putting a crystal on your forehead and your belly button, and it's about going inside of yourself, going into your sacred center, to be able to open yourself up to receive information, to receive inspiration. You don't need to be an Indian to do this. Anybody can do this. This involves the mind. So, opening up yourself to receiving inspiration from sources that are special, in some instances sacred, in some instances not even from this planet. It's cool. Yeah, when I'm trying to find the right adjective for that. It's a very nice thing to be able to receive this kind of information, and lots of times that happens in dreams. And the dream world is near the same area where you tap into the source, where you pick up things. Like sometimes you get an idea of something and it just happens. I'll give you a really funny example. Do you remember that car from Chevrolet that was called Citation? Chevy Citation? Do you remember that? For the years 1980 to 85. It was introduced in April 1979 for the model year 1980. It takes over from the model that used to be called Nova. So for all you car aficionados, you know that car. When in 1980 we saw the TV commercial for this Chevy Citation, and oh gee, that's just an ugly car, yeah. I think it is, yeah. I think it's a really ugly car. And so, what year? What I can't remember. I can't remember what year it was. I forgot the year. But we on the reservation, somebody had one. So one of the tribal workers drove by with a brand new Chevy Citation. And I said, Jesus, that's an ugly car. I hope I never have one of those cars. It's just ugly. And here, what? And then I was thinking, okay, in the future, yeah, I was thinking, wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny if I ended up with one? Even though I think it's an ugly car, wouldn't it be funny if I ended up with one of these cars? In a situation where you have no choice. Yeah. For one thing, the reservation is like 90% unemployment. So you have to get what you can. Yeah. And if you have a job, you have to try your best to hang on to it, because it's not like you can just change jobs. It's really, really hard to get a job. Basically, you have to be related to somebody who's on the tribal council. And I was not. So there were years where I was unemployed. So it took me a while to get a job. Jeez, I think I waited 7 years. I think I went without a job one time. Yeah, that's a long time. You just have to find something to make yourself useful. You know what I mean? You have to do things and stuff like that. Fortunately for me, I was a musician, so I was writing songs and stuff like that. But one time, our car broke down, and I have an uncle. He's a licensed mechanic. My car broke down, and it was beyond repair. My uncle said it would be better if you just bought a different car. He said, because to repair everything is going to be really expensive. He said, I can do it, but you could save money if you buy a different car. And so he said, if you're interested, I have one available. Because sometimes he finds a car and he will totally rebuild everything. And then he would just keep it on the side as a loaner car. So, for example, if you lived outside of town and you needed a car and he was working on your car, he would loan you this car while he's working on yours. That's a loaner car. And he said he has a loaner car that he was willing to sell me for a really good price. So I said, okay, because, this is my uncle and he knows the car because he put it together himself. So he knows the engine really good. If anything goes wrong, he's going to know how to fix it really fast because he built that engine himself, which means it's going to run really good. So I thought, why not? So he said, I'll bring it in Sunday. So we said, okay. I was thinking what kind of car it was. So we waited. Then my mother said, yeah, he's here now. He brought your new car. And I said, oh, cool. And as I was walking towards the door, I got this thought in my mind. I bet you anything it's a citation. I opened the door and lo and behold, it was a silver citation. Oh, shit. I have an ugly car now. So, but I'm mature, so I said, "Well, hey, it's got a good engine in it, and that's the important thing. Yeah, it has a good engine, it has good tires, it's clean. I, I just have to pretend it's something else." Oh shit! And so I took it for a test drive, and it was pretty good. Yeah, it drove really nice. It's really a good engine, and had a brand new cassette tape player in there. He said I could have that for free. He said. So I was like, incentive. Yeah. So then I gave him the money and I thanked him, and he was happy too. Yeah, that he was able to help me out. I really appreciate that. It's a good uncle. But I had a citation. Oh shit, that's so funny. Because 10 years earlier, I was saying, geez, that's an ugly car. and, then, and then right after that, I said to myself, gee, wouldn't it be funny if in the future I ended up with a car like that? Yeah. And here it happened. 10 years later, here I am. Yeah, with the Chevy Citation. Oh, gosh. But now, let's analyze this. Okay? Let's analyze this. At the point where I said, now watch, in the future, I end up with one of these cars. Right at that point, subconsciously, I tapped, and I didn't even know it. I tapped into the source, and I didn't even realize I did. Sometimes it happens and we're not even aware of it. Sometimes we're doing this and we're not even aware of it. Sometimes it's a kind of an inspiration, and it's coming from the same area. This thing that I call the source, it's an energy that's all over, it's all around us. The Chinese people call it qi. Lakota people call it wakan. A lot of people think wakan means sacred, but actually it does, but it's more. It's this energy. It's around everything. And so when you are aware of it, sometimes you can influence things, especially in a healthy way. You can influence things. In Lakota, when we say "Daya omanie," that's what women say. "Daya omanie." Men say "Daya omanie lo." When you say this expression, that's what you're doing. And literally, this expression means walk in peace. But the real meaning of this expression is wishing health on the other person. It's wishing healing to come to the other person. When you say that, "Dayan manie, dayan manie lo." So usually when you have a visitor and then they're going home, you say that to them, "Dayan manie lo, dayan manie." You say that, and you're wishing them health. Even though we have a word for health, which is wichozani, you're using this expression in a different way. So it's like you're wishing blessing, you're wishing health, peace, strength when it gets difficult. That's what you're wishing upon them when you say that expression. Let's learn how to say that, because you can use it. I'm giving it to you to use. Dayan means good in a very comfortable way. There's two words for good in Lakota. Dayan is one. Washte is another one. Washte means good in a general sense. Oh, that's good. Hey, washte. Yeah. But Dayan is like, oh, this is wonderful, you know? Eating chocolate, that's Dayan. Eating fruit is washte, but eating chocolate is Dayan, okay? That's how you can tell the difference. Oh, gosh. So accent on the second syllable. Repeat after me. Dayan. That's not a D sound you're saying. Because in Lakota, there is no D sound. D as in David. That sound does not exist in Lakota. It's a sound that's between the T and D in English. Okay? It's a sound that's in the middle of T as in take and D as in dog. It's right in the middle. Okay? Da-yan. And you hear nasal sounds. Da-yan. Da-yan. The accents on the second syllable. Da-yan. Da-yan. That's how you say that. Next word, omani. Again, accent on the second syllable. Omani. Almost sounds like oh money. Omani. Daya omani. Women say yeah at the end of this expression. Yeah. Y-E. Yeah. And men will say yellow. There's a really old Lakota Star Knowledge story that explains why men and women end their sentences differently. It's a really old story. It's a long story. It has to do with women have a cycle which involves the moon, and men have a cycle which involves the sun. It's a really old story that explains how this began. And this is the reason why our language has different endings for women and for men. But the main sentence is Daya Omani. Daya Omani. So when you have a visitor and now they're going home, they don't have to live thousands of miles away. Maybe you don't see them that often. And that's what you can say to them as they leave. If you're a woman, you say, Daya Omani ye. You're a man, you say, Daya Omani ye lo. So you're wishing good things for them, but you're also influencing their sacred center to open so they receive inspiration. That's the purpose behind Daya Omani. Very beautiful expression. So simple. Daya Omani. Daya Omani lo. See, how about that? You learned a Lakota expression, and it's a beautiful one. This is what I always heard my mom say. Every time we had visitors and then they were leaving, she would always say that. Daya Omani, she would say to them. And then they would thank her and stuff like that. It was really nice. So that's what this expression means. It's influencing your sacred center to open so that you may receive inspiration to solve whatever you're facing, or for blessing, or for healing, understanding. You're wishing that upon somebody. See, Lakota was meant to be spoken in a way where you acknowledge that you're connected to somebody by calling them a kinship term. You never call them by name. When I heard my mother talking to her cousins, they never, ever used first names. They always say Jephanshi to each other. They're all women, and they're all cousins. They always would call each other Jephanshi or Jephanshi. Either one is correct. They never use names. So first, you always acknowledge the person you're speaking to as a relative. And then the next rule, you speak in such a way as to nurture that connection, such as in the expression Daya Omani. This is the way you speak Lakota. So that's why we don't say good morning, good evening, good night, and goodbye. We don't say those things because for us, this does not nurture the connection. This is the way a cold-hearted person speaks. So we don't say that. I never heard my mother say "Hiha ni washte." A lot of young people today are saying this. They think that means good morning. The grandmothers and grandfathers, they never said those things. Never. And my parents, they never said those things. They say something else. They say something that nurtures the connection to the person they're speaking to. So they might say something like, "Hianikile lila tayawa chionke." These words are reaching out to that person and hugging them, embracing them. That means it's really good to see you this morning. I'm really happy to see you this morning. That's what it means. We don't just say good morning. See, that's the Lakota way of thinking. So when people say "ampetu washte," this is not the Lakota way of thinking. This is very cold to talk like that. That means good day, but we don't say that. We don't say that. Not at all. Instead, we might say something like "ampetu kile lila tayawa chionke," or "wa chionke lo," if you're a man. If you're a man. You better check. Make sure. But the words reach out to embrace one another, and this makes you feel good. And then you see you're communicating from deep within you, where your sacred center is. So when you talk in this way, it's nurturing the sacred center to give you inspiration and to give each other inspiration. You can talk like this in English too. It's not the language that's bad, it's how you talk. You can say, "Oh, it's really nice to see you this morning." You can say that in English, and it makes people feel good instead of just saying good morning. You see what I mean? So you can change it. It's up to you. I hear a lot of people say English is a bad language. No, it's not. It's the person who speaks it. It's how they live their life. What kind of person are they? A lot of good things can happen when you are taking care of yourself so that you communicate from your sacred center. And one of those things is receiving inspiration, and another of those things is wishing each other well so that they will receive inspiration too, because we're all connected to each other. Kind of nice, isn't it? You can do it too. You have the capacity to do it.
To read more about Lakota Star Knowledge spirituality, you can read my book called Wichocha Otechike. You can see the book cover on the right side of this screen. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota spirituality videos. To purchase this book, please click below where it says Show More. Clicking on that link will open up the description below, and there you will see a link called To Purchase My Books. As you will see, it's an eBay link. Click on that eBay link, and there you will see the information to get this book. Lila Pilamayelo. Thank you very much.